10 секунд. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
The game. He was here through the last camp when Khamzat went to his first title. It was an insane camp, and the guy was pushing it every day, and you saw the level of wrestling, and you saw what they were working on, and then you saw that wrestling against DDP. Listen, the internet loves to say glazing, they love to say I love to talk, but facts are facts. If you're going to be a dominant world champion and you're going to hold a guy down like DDP for that long with that much dominance, it shows your level of athleticism, but also shows your game plan. And if people can't throw you off the game plan and you get a title, whose fault is it? Not mine.
Like Khabib, you know what's coming, you just can't stop
it. You can't do nothing about it.
That's what all the greatest in the world have. Jordan Borz, you know he's going to double leg you. It's not if.
But you can't stop it. David Taylor, Bo
you know the ankle picks coming. You know
you know the rules.
You know
like if you don't know wrestling, don't talk to me. But listen, I just learned about wrestling when Khamzat showed up. So hey, Pat Downey's going to be here for the next 6 weeks. You know we're going to get the intel from this guy, another American who speaks fluent English. That's already a plus. Like when you're doing this type of behind-the-scenes show and you got 30 Chechens and no one speaks a lick of English, it's great to have one guy that can throw in a few one-liners.
I'm the lone American.
Bear, I need bigger shorts.
Bear,
Bob.
Bigger shorts than Bob.
Crazy Bob, your coach?
Bob. Punching bag, dog.
Oh my God. Okay, so Luke Rockhold has a punching bag at his house here in Newport Coast. Since the guy's so rich, he bought a house that overlooks the water, and he dressed up a punching bag and named it Bob, and then put it in the group chat with the entire team. He sent everybody over the world. Now you don't know where your keys are. Okay, great. And he showed up to practice. Now, did he bring his gear? No. Is he ready to train? No. But he showed up to practice, and that's all that matters.
Oh, man.
What's up, boys? All good? All good? You know, I just watched. You know, I got the boys here. Good? Okay. Yeah, man, we keep trying to flip it. Good? Yeah.
What we learned is Chimaev leaves everything out there. He's tired at the end of every fight because he gives everything. And if he's got to give that for 25 minutes or he's got to give that for 15, either way, he's going to empty the tank. But Strickland is also known for his pacing. Strickland is also known for his conditioning. I've never seen Strickland wilt. Even on fights that haven't gone Sean's way, it's not because he got tired and gave up, ever. But one of these guys is better than the other one, and one of these guys is going to have an ability and a skill set that is going to overwhelm his opponent. And we're going to know who that is. Not at the end of 25 minutes. We're going to know who that is at the end of...
Man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, if the guy who fought Fluffy shows up, he beats.
If Khamzat literally was taken down with ease and just bullying him, I mean, then but it's hard to picture Sean just getting fucked up just because we've seen him fight so many times and no one really ever, even when you have close fights, he's never getting his ass kicked. So I'm excited for that fight. I think
knocked out though.
Huh?
Did he get knocked out?
The matchup between Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland has the entire MMA community completely split, with no clear consensus emerging anywhere. Some analysts dive deep into grappling dynamics and emerge convinced the outcome is obvious based on wrestling alone, while others believe equally strongly that Strickland possesses exactly what's needed to pull this into his preferred territory, where he dominates and opponents crumble. Predictions range wildly from Chimaev steamrolling to legitimate upset warnings for Strickland, and that massive divide is precisely what makes this bout so compelling and deserving of detailed examination. We're looking at what the sport's most knowledgeable voices are saying about where the advantages lie, and crucially, where this contest could pivot decisively in either direction.
As far as how I think the fight plays out, I do think Chimaev wins. I think Strickland, I mean, he had lightning in a bottle against Israel Adesanya. You know, he's capable of pulling off an upset. We've seen that before. I just think Chimaev is, I don't know if anyone beats Chimaev right now. And that includes Imavov. I don't think Imavov is going to beat Chimaev either. I think Chimaev is just going to continue to get those takedowns, going to continue to put pressure on. I wonder, though, can he finish Strickland? I'm not sure. He wasn't able to finish DDP. And again, I thought DDP and Strickland were kind of neck and neck when you saw those matchups. I know every fight's different as far as the styles go, but I think Chimaev might end up winning a decision here. I don't think it's going to be a quick finish. I know he's threatened Strickland and saying, you know, like, it's going to be a quick win and all that stuff. You know, I don't think that's going to happen here.
Demetrius Johnson cuts through all speculation with his characteristically sharp assessment of Sean Strickland's methodology, providing insight that's particularly valuable given his legendary fight IQ. Johnson emphasizes that there's absolutely nothing mysterious or complex about Strickland's cage work, describing it as deliberately slow, methodical, and consistently executed using the same fundamental blueprint. Strickland won't surprise anyone with explosive bursts or unpredictable sequences, instead maintaining his position directly in front of opponents while firing that metronomic jab and utilizing push kicks to dictate distance and control engagement range. Johnson's crucial observation centers on how this approach stems directly from Strickland's training habits, noting that his massive sparring volume means actual fights essentially become intensified versions of his daily gym sessions. That's precisely why Strickland's pacing appears so controlled and measured, why he never looks rushed or flustered, and why his tactical approach remains remarkably consistent throughout entire contests, regardless of what opponents throw at him.
Biggest thing when you look at Sean Strickland, and everybody talks about it, he has this amazing pace, he has this da-da-da-da. His pace is very, very slow. He's not explosive, he's very here, and he goes here, and it makes sense, all he does is spar. Yeah. That's pretty much his training. He just spars, and he goes here and he just, throws a jab. Oh, he's southpaw. He's orthodox. He's orthodox. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like he's southpaw, but he goes like this. Yeah. He throws that jab, and then if you come forward, he stays nice and here. And then he'll, throw his jab and move. But that's all he's gonna do. Yeah. That's all I thought he's gonna do. Yeah. He doesn't shoot. Yeah. He doesn't clinch. Yeah. It's pretty.
TJ Dillashaw builds on that foundation while adding layers that reveal both the strengths and potential vulnerabilities in Strickland's system. While not particularly impressed by the variety in Strickland's offensive arsenal, Dillashaw acknowledges serious respect for how genuinely frustrating and annoying that style becomes over championship distance. He emphasizes that standing directly in front of Strickland and trying to engage conventionally means eating jabs and push kicks relentlessly, round after round, creating a war of attrition that favors the more patient fighter. Dillashaw clarifies that the danger isn't necessarily knockout power, but rather getting trapped at Strickland's preferred distance, unable to close gaps effectively while getting constantly poked and kicked as your own game plan falls apart. Most importantly, Dillashaw identifies specific defensive patterns in how Strickland uses his hands for parrying and blocking, noting these follow consistent sequences that create legitimate openings for opponents, smart enough and patient enough to set them up properly instead of rushing in desperately hoping for immediate results.
A jab and push kick is what he's going to throw. He's a volume guy. He's not going to knock you out. I'm hoping, I imagine he is, but Khamzat's really trained to counter that jab.
Yep.
And what Strickland does do a good job of, which is not I wouldn't do it, but what he does is he parries a lot. He uses his arms really well.
Out here, yes.
Right, but I want him to, like, for me, if I was fighting him, I would set those traps up. I want him to start doing that. You've seen Pereira do it, right? Yeah. Like, Pereira was, like, jabbing the chest, getting under, jabbing chest, and you're getting him to pull his hands away from his face because he does it.
Mighty Mouse then connects all these elements specifically to Chimaev's skill set and what factors will determine this particular contest. Johnson believes everything hinges on whether Chimaev allows this to become that slow, controlled, methodical pace that heavily favors Strickland's thousands of hours operating in that exact environment. However, if Chimaev maintains intelligent movement, stays compact in his approach, and times his entries without telegraphing intentions, the entire fight dynamic shifts dramatically and quickly. Once Chimaev secures close range and locks his hands or achieves body control, it immediately transitions to takedown attempts and ground control where he's genuinely destroyed high-level opponents before. Johnson's analysis boils down to one fundamental question that cuts through all complexity and speculation about techniques or game plans. Who successfully forces their preferred style first and maintains it throughout the majority of the contest, because that fighter will almost certainly emerge victorious.
And the one thing about that is like when you just broke down, it's very basic,
Yeah.
right? You can fight Sean Strickland and keep it as a sparring match, because nothing's going to go above that. He's not going to switch stance or do something that's going to like ramp. It's a tempo. He gets in the car, he puts it in second gear, third gear, and just sits there on cruise control. That's all it is, right? So if Khamzat goes out there and keeps his pace and does what he does and it just moves, like right there, like right, you go here, you step this way. Only thing you have to watch about, like, he's in this position right here. He can do a spinning back elbow, boom, which is very possible people do, or he has to get his shit together, and he comes back in front. He has to get his shit together and turn and face me, right? And so he does that. All Khamzat does is stay here, and then boom! And that's what Khamzat's so good at, is Khamzat comes out and he moves, and he's here, and he's always moving.
TJ concludes his breakdown by picking Chimaev, but emphasizes this prediction comes with important caveats about approach and execution. He believes the strength advantage and relentless pressure are legitimate factors that matter significantly in this matchup, and he's convinced the cardio issues from previous performances have been genuinely resolved based on recent evidence. However, this only works if Chimaev fights with real discipline and avoids falling into predictable patterns that play into Strickland's strengths. Dillashaw wants to see strikes thrown first to get Strickland reacting and moving his hands away from his face, creating openings in that tight defensive guard before attempting takedowns when they're actually available rather than forced. He also emphasizes attacking the body systematically to break down that defensive shell over time, weakening Strickland's structure and posture progressively. The path for Chimaev domination definitely exists and is clearly visible, but if he rushes things, becomes predictable, or abandons systematic approach, he's walking directly into exactly the kind of fight Strickland thrives in.
True. I just think Khamzat's too strong.
Yeah, 1,000%.
He's too strong, and now he's got the cardio to go along with it. As long as he plays his game and he sets these takedowns up, he can't just shoot blind shots. Like I don't want to shoot off from here, which he's done it and got away with it because he's so strong. He's very strong. He can shoot a shot from here and still get it. But I want him to get Strickland to start moving his hands and parrying and then shoot my shot. So throwing combos first, getting a shot, keeping the pressure on him instead of vice versa, countering that jab, really working that body, right? Because this is all the shoulder roll, the Philly shell, and this is all to block his head. And I want him to do that. I want him to get his hands, but I want to like dig the body so now this is here, right? Like Pereira put a blueprint on how to catch that left hook on him. Obviously he hits really hard, but just was jabbing the chest. He was jabbing the chest. And he's getting Strickland to do this with his hands, and then he'd fake to go to the jab. And then
Chael Sonnen raises something most people aren't considering seriously enough, questioning whether Sean Strickland actually gets taken down easily and controlled like everyone else Chimaev has faced in his career. This creates a fascinating contradiction where you have one fighter who always gets takedowns against everybody, facing another fighter specifically known for not staying down when put there. Sonnen emphasizes that gym reports consistently indicate Strickland isn't someone you simply control on the ground, round after round in training sessions. While he gets taken down plenty during sparring and training, the crucial factor is he doesn't get kept there, constantly working back to his feet and resetting positions. Meanwhile, Chimaev represents the complete opposite pattern, being heavy, suffocating, and relentless once he achieves top position and settles into his control game. These two completely opposite habits clash directly against each other, meaning someone's usual pattern will fail and someone's normal approach will break, which is exactly why Sonnen keeps emphasizing that first round as absolutely critical for determining everything that follows.
Be difficult for me to imagine Chimaev can't go out and tackle somebody. Why? Well, because every Chimaev fight I've seen, he has gone out and tackled somebody quickly, repeatedly. But it's very hard for me to imagine that he's going to just throw Sean Strickland down. Nobody else has. Kamaru Usman didn't. Just, for example, of great wrestlers. I have seen Sean in the practice room. Just for example, in practice room stories are very, very relevant. Like you'll see a different side of a guy in a practice room. When a guy goes into a fight, he's going to go with plan A. And he will never go to plan B ever unless plan A doesn't work. You have a guy like Khabib where people go, well, he's a one-dimensional fighter. Well, he was one-dimensional because that dimension always worked. In the practice room, Khabib can punch and he can kick and he can fight off his back. He can do all sorts of things. But you've never seen them because he was so dominant in fighting, just for an example. So practice room is very relevant. I've never in the practice room seen somebody go throw Sean Strickland down and keep him there. Ever.
On the flip side, Strickland presents a completely different type of problem that can't be dismissed or overlooked in this analysis. Sonnen clearly views Strickland as the significantly cleaner and more technical striker with a resume that backs up this assessment completely. Strickland has demonstrated in multiple contests that he can handle high-level kickboxing over long championship rounds, and crucially, he doesn't slow down as fights progress into later rounds. If this contest stays standing for extended periods, it's not about Strickland merely surviving or holding on until the final bell. He can actually take control, dictate pace, and win rounds clearly through superior boxing and distance management. The tricky element that makes this whole fight difficult to predict is that we don't fully know how Chimaev performs when forced to strike for long stretches without being able to secure takedowns and implement his preferred grappling game.
George St. Pierre did not believe that he could beat Matt Hughes. George goes out there and dominates Matt Hughes, but just I'm not on his level, and found a way. He just found a way to make sure Matt won, and then goes, give me a rematch. Now the mask is off. Now I know. Now I believe in himself. And it was a very one-sided affair, but this is a real thing when you can feel a guy. And I'm just sharing with you, like, whoever wins that first round, I don't know that it's as simple as can Sean stop the takedown. I think that Sean is a better kickboxer. I think that he's a meaningfully better kickboxer. I watched Sean for 25 minutes out kickbox Israel Adesanya, who is a decorated pure kickboxer.
Din Thomas admits his perspective on this entire matchup evolved significantly through careful film study, demonstrating how detailed analysis can completely change initial impressions. Initially, he envisioned Chimaev running through Strickland with complete domination, just as he's done to other opponents throughout his career. However, after studying Strickland closely in recent performances, examining his movements and defensive awareness systematically, Thomas's entire outlook shifted dramatically towards seeing legitimate paths for Strickland's success. He began recognizing that Strickland doesn't need to be perfect or deliver the performance of his lifetime, just needs to be himself and stick to what he does best consistently. This means defending takedown attempts intelligently, accepting that he might get taken down at some point because that's realistic, but trusting his ability to get back up and reset position just like he's done throughout his career. Thomas isn't asking Strickland to change anything about his approach or develop new skills specifically for this contest, believing what Strickland already does naturally represents a legitimate problem for Chimaev to solve systematically. Going in.
Options. Sean does have great wrestling takedown defense, and also he's got great shots to the body, and he's very awkward to fight. Good cardio too.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you were to ask me before the Fluffy fight,
yeah,
I would have said there's no way. I think Sean's great, but he's just going to be another victim for Khamzat. But after watching him fight Fluffy up close and personal, again, cage side, man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, if the guy who fought Fluffy shows up.
Thomas clearly gives Strickland a very real chance to actually win this fight, not merely survive, but the outcome depends entirely on which version appears on fight night. If it's the same sharp, composed, consistent, and defensively sound Strickland from recent performances, Thomas genuinely believes he can pull off what many would consider a significant upset, not through anything spectacular or a crazy finish, just by sticking to his game plan, surviving the early danger Chimaev brings, and letting his style wear Chimaev down over time as rounds progress and fatigue becomes an increasingly important factor in determining who can maintain their preferred approach.
For sure, and it's funny because I remember when Sean, when he fought, was it Jack Marsh? And, I thought he had some technical difficulties in the way he was throwing his punches. Like it was mechanically a little off, but he's cleaned that up. He's cleaned it up, and he's throwing punches mechanically sound, and he's got some weight behind it. And I think, man, if he shows up, I think he
Michael Bisping approached this from a slightly different angle, leaning more into the danger side of things for Strickland, while acknowledging the complexity involved. He stated outright that it's a tough fight for Sean, genuinely meaning that because of what Chimaev brings in those early rounds when he's freshest and most dangerous. Bisping sees the biggest issue being those first 2 rounds where if Chimaev gets Strickland down and settles into his top control game, things can deteriorate very quickly and potentially spiral completely out of control. However, Bisping also emphasized important balance in his analysis, noting that Strickland isn't easy to control on the ground and constantly works to get back up without panicking in bad positions. Bisping viewed the timing and circumstances of this fight as making sense for Strickland getting a title shot if he wins, noting he did more than just win his last fight, he made a real statement. When you step back and examine all these different perspectives from high-level analysts and former champions, this contest really comes down to who can force their game first and maintain it for the majority of the fight. If Chimaev secures early takedowns in the first 2 rounds and controls pace on the ground, it could look dominant very quickly like his previous performances. But if Strickland keeps getting back to his feet and drags this into later championship rounds, that's where things shift dramatically and become really uncomfortable for Chimaev in ways we haven't witnessed before. That's exactly why you're seeing so many genuinely split opinions across the MMA community, because it's not as straightforward as people initially think when they first hear this matchup. And one small moment, one successful takedown defense, or one perfectly timed exchange could change absolutely everything and determine the entire outcome.